G'day everyone. I thought I'd just make a video about the first thing you should do whenever you buy a SL, a S55, an E55, a G55, anything with the M113k supercharged engine. The absolute first thing you do, check the engine oil. Second thing you do, check the supercharger oil. Before you go out and thrash this thing on the street, bounce it off the rev limiter, do some donuts, you've got to check the supercharger oil. So I've got a video here to show you what's involved. It's a pretty simple job, but so many people overlook it because Mercedes does not include this in any of their servicing. They consider it a service for life, sealed for life, which basically just means when it runs out of oil, it's fucked. That's it. Its life's over. And it can be very expensive to change. So in Australia, the price supplied was $15,000 plus. So it was ridiculous. Anyway, so obviously I've done a video before about how the clutch works and how that all comes off. Not going to talk about that today, but down here is your oil bung. So when you're looking at the front of the motor, this is how you'll look at it. And just down there is the oil bung. So the best way I've found to get to it is I think it's a 5mm ball Allen key. You can get it on a bit of an angle because the clutch does get in the road. And make sure you put a towel underneath it when you do it, because down in here is all sorts of cavities, and if you lose it, you won't be getting another one. They're a really bizarre thread, and I've tried to replace them, and they've basically purposely made them so you can't just buy them off the shelf. They're a thread and a pitch that does not exist together, basically. Okay, so this is the front snout of the supercharger, and I'm just going to show you what goes on in here. So unfortunately, I was a little bit too productive on this one, and I've already cleaned it. But I hope you guys can see in here, you can still see a bit of a remnants of how dirty this was. So this one I got for spare parts, and I bought it, and there was probably, I don't know, 30 mils of oil or something in it. It was really black. I was also going to keep that oil for a video, and I've thrown it out. So yeah, basically it looked like dirty engine oil. And if you get down here, you'll see, so there's your bung. So there's your level there. People talk about it's 150 mils. So basically what happens is it fills this cavity here. And as the supercharger turns, it turns this cog, which then turns the rest of the gears, and it sprays oil everywhere. It throws it all around the housing, and then it gets into the cavities and it drips into the bearings. So it's a very, very fine oil, and it's a vapor oil system. So basically the bearings don't sit in the oil, but they are drip fed it once it's thrown around the supercharger. So after 10 or so years, this thing not being serviced, basically the oil will get down and down and down until it doesn't hit any cogs. Or if it does hit it, it only just sort of throws it around. There's not much going on. And then basically what happens is your bearings run dry and it destroys the supercharger. So there is a little breather here, and this runs all the way through to the front bolt. And there's a breather inside this. Take this off. All the way through there's a filter and there's a breather. It's got a hole in it. So some people say that there's oil coming out of here when I park downhill. That is a side effect of having slightly too much oil in it. I've had one supercharger that just continues to empty the oil. You fill it up, it just blows it out, sprays it all over the bonnet, disappears. So what that is a sign that the seals in the supercharger, not in here, in this back section, are basically worn, and it's pressurizing the front of the case and pushing excess amount of air through that way. So that breather is meant to be open to let excess pressure out from temperature changes, all sorts of stuff like that. But if you are emptying, like my car was just emptying 150 mils of oil in a day, gone, all over the bonnet, I had to plug it, basically. I had to put a bolt in it. Right, so onto the oil. So this is what Mercedes uses, or this is what IHI uses, which is the manufacturer. Mercedes doesn't use any oil because I don't care. So it's Mobil Jet Oil 2, and it's a jet turbine oil for helicopters. This is what it looks like brand new. Nice golden colour. You can get 254. It's more of a green colour. This is a really golden colour. This is a bit of oil that I pulled out of my supercharger, and yeah, it's a little bit worn, but that's, I don't know, half a year or something. But the one that I pulled out of this one in here was black. It was like gritty, you know, it was really, really horrible. And you can probably tell, if I can get in here and have a look at all the build-up in there. I've done a bit of a good job cleaning it, but yeah, it was just caked on. It looked like, yeah, there you go, up in the corner there. Yeah, it looked more like grease, just covered the whole thing. So yeah, that was the end of that supercharger. It was chewed out. So, very easy job. You can do it with a 50mm syringe and a piece of air hose from, say, I usually get it from fish tank air hose, 50mm syringe. Basically drop it in there, you can turn it and suck out as much oil as you can get out. It's probably not going to have a lot in it. The first time I did mine, I probably had 30 or 40 mils, 50, it was nearly nothing. Expect to get nearly nothing out of it. Put 150 mils back in it. I wouldn't be too worried about if there is still some in there, because it'll blow out the breather at the end of the day. You're better off having more oil in it than no oil at all. So yeah, just get in the habit of changing it. These are like, I sell it in a kit with a syringe for like $15. If you're overseas, it might be cheaper to locate it wherever you are. I'm in Australia, so I buy these in tins, break it up, sell it off, so the Australians can have it basically. Had one customer that contacted me because Mercedes sold him a oil for his E55. They sold him 110 mils of oil for the Eaton superchargers, which is a different oil, and it was $275 or something ridiculous. So it wasn't enough oil, not the right type, and it was nearly $300. This, with the syringe, $15. So I guarantee you it'll be 100 times more expensive to change your supercharger out, even if you just do it all yourself, compared to this $15 worth of oil. So I know heaps of people that have changed pulleys, put tunes in their cars, you know, they race them week in, week out, give them a really hard time, and they've never checked the supercharger oil. And don't just rely on the fact that you think that it's been really well serviced, or Mercedes, it used to be owned by a Mercedes technician, or all that crap. You're better off just checking it for yourself.